Speaking of AI, let's talk about a little bit about something really interesting that happened recently. So recently there was a conference and James Hamilton, a distinguished engineer at Amazon, gave a talk. He talked about how Amazon recently completed a $65 million training run. Right? So it cost them $65 million. So it's a 200 billion parameter model trained on 4,000 tokens. It took them 48 days and it cost them $65 million. This is one generation old, according in the talk. And so what that means is if we can assume that they've now leveled up and increased the size, we're already in the realm of training models that cost over $100 million for a company to run. In the slide, he talks about one thing, he lands on one thing, which is training runs soon to cross $1 billion. So if you think about like where costs are now being generated in AI, well, we have it right here. Training these models, these foundational frontier models, costs a lot of money. And in fact, it's going to cost over $1 billion to train some of them. The reason I bring this up is because one, I think it's really interesting and it's insightful to come from a company like Amazon. So it's a good source, so just sort of reported. Two, I think it's incredible. Like if you think about where the costs are in this new age, the infrastructure cost is the training of the entire model is actually perhaps even a larger cost than GPUs over time. And then three, the inaccessibility. Like, how can a startup do this unless it raised billions and billions and billions of dollars? Do you have a view on how this might change the market for startups versus incumbents in the AI space, knowing what we now know?
I think it's a good question. I think it's not surprising to me that those foundational models are going to be very challenging for new upstarts to train. And I think it's going to be increasingly so over time as obviously the incumbents get better, get more data. So I think there's a piece here of where there certainly is a degree of challenge that will present, but I don't think that necessarily is very surprising.
It does go back to the whole paradigm shift, which is away from the business model being anything to do with software licensing. The business model is compute, right?